Hi everyone. I'm going to talk to you today about why it can be so difficult to think out of the box, to think differently from everyone else. And one way to illustrate that is to sort of think about how our brains are wired, first of all. And this arrow game is going to really illustrate that pretty clearly, I think. What I'm going to ask you to do, and if you have a roommate, go bring them over because this is fun. I want you to throw yourself into this. It's goofy and fun, and how often do you get to get up and move? Or you could do it sitting down if you like. It doesn't matter. It's going to involve your arms and your voice. So what I'm going to ask you to do the first time, we're going to do 3 different versions of this. I'm going to ask you to look at the arrow, starting in the top left there, and then we're going to move to the right and then back over to the left, and we're, sort of the way you'd read a book, we're going to just go right away down to the lower right arrow. And I'm going to ask you this first time to basically throw your arms in the direction that the arrow is pointing and say the direction the arrow is pointing. So the first one there on the top left would be up, and your arms would be thrown up. So let's begin. Ready? Up, right, down, left, left, down, right, down, down, up, left, right. Congratulations, I'm sure you all did an amazing job on that. It's great. You should feel pretty good about that. Well, maybe not so good about it, and I'll tell you why in a second. All right, the second time, what I'm going to ask you to do is to throw your arms in the direction of the arrow, like we did on the first one, but say the different way the opposite way the arrow is pointing. So the top one, for example, the top left, you'd throw your arms up, but you'd say down. And you can do that for all the arrows. So we're going to march right through these. And I think you're going to find this is not as easy as you think. All right, you ready? You can't see my arms, so I'm cheating, but I'm actually suck at this, so I'm glad you can't see me. Here, let's get started. On the first one, ready? We're going to just march right through. Ready? Down, left, up, right, right, up, left, up, down, right, left. Yay, I bet you all sucked at that. Most of you are probably just watching this saying, I'm not doing that, I didn't get any sleep last night. This is bullshit, But I'm hoping you are because it's a lot of fun. All right, so that was the second one. And that was probably a lot harder for you than the first one. I'm quite sure it was. Now the third one, here's what I want you to do. Do it randomly. Pick whatever you want. You can throw your arms up or down. Be as creative as you want. Do whatever you want. Okay. Don't listen to me. Ready, set, go. Left, right, down, weird, up, right, down, down and up, down, left, right. Well, there you go. My arms were actually kind of waving all over the place, So there's a point to this. And what is that point? Well, on the top one where we did it the same way. We said the arrow and our arms went the direction the arrow was going. That's easy and simple, and everyone can do it. It's not that hard. Everyone does this. This is basic, the way our brains are wired. The second one, where we had our hands going one way and we were saying the opposite direction of the arrow, that was really hard because our brains aren't wired that way. It makes us really uncomfortable to have to think that way. And on the third one, it was fun and random, and there's a lesson there. Let me tell you what that is. So on the top one, where everybody sort of can do it, that sort of equates to traditional thinking. The way we all think. We all are exactly alike. We all have the same experiences. We all grew up in pretty much the same households with the same cultural references, bands, rock bands, TV shows, food, McDonald's, all that junk. So, we're all comfortable with this. We know how to do this. This is easy. No big deal. So, it's pretty unamazing to be able to do that because everyone can do it, Now, on the second one, that's just hard. It's like, well, if you were good at that, then you are wired differently than most of us. Our brains are very uncomfortable with that. We're a little embarrassed by how it went. If other people were in the room and watching, we're all laughing because we feel uncomfortable. And it was fun and funny, and all of that. And that starts to really suggest how creative thinking, basically thinking differently, getting our brains to think differently than they're comfortable thinking, is a hard thing to do, and no one's saying this is easy. On the free for all, where everybody did what they wanted, it's like great. Everyone was doing what they wanted. They're all just flailing their arms around and all of this other stuff. And great. And in a way, if everyone's special, well, no one's special. If everybody's doing what they want, then it's just pretty much chaos and nothing's ever going to get done. It's just sort of, But, where the real creative person would come in on all of these is the person who didn't do what I told them to, particularly on the last one. For example, if I said, do whatever you want, and, so you're still following the rules, though. I said, do whatever you want. So you're throwing your arms around, you're saying the directions of arrows. A really creative person might have thought of going against the grain and just standing there with their arms crossed in the room. So, and that's happened. That happened once in one of my classes where everyone was doing this and laughing and joking and everybody's dancing around and spinning around in circles with their arms thrown around. One time, and I spotted somebody standing in the middle of the room with their arms crossed. And they might have been just jerks who didn't want to do the assignment, but I thought, that person is really going against the grain. They're definitely thinking differently. And that starts to get to where creativity reigns, So let's move on a little bit. So pattern thinking, looking at patterns. Our brains are wired to recognize patterns and patterns. Things happen and we know how to respond to that, and our brains are going to say, if this happens, do this. And that's what makes us comfortable. Our brain's comfortable. We like that. All of us pretty much think that way. It's hard not to. It's very hard not to. And we try, and it's based on our experiences. We've all grown up. As I said, we all have these cultural references that are in common. We all are kind of wired to think in the same way. It's the straight and narrow track. It's like everybody's on the same train heading down those tracks. We're all set on that train. No one's jumping off. No one's derailing it. It's just, we're all on that train. Everyone is going to head toward that same horizon in a very predictable way that is not very interesting at all. It's kind of predictable, really. It's based on the patterns of thinking that we have developed over the course of our growing up. And we stick with this pattern thinking a long time. As I'm in my 50s now, and there are things I still, I'll still respond to things now the way I did when I was 17. And it just gets kind of old. And so, we tend to stick with what we know. And, conforming diminishes conflict in our lives. That's a very contented baby, in case you didn't recognize this. When we conform, we're rewarded for it. Society likes to reward us for these things. Cops don't arrest you if you conform. You're just safer that way. So it reduces conflict, and so you're just a happier person, right? You're just more comfortable. And most of us are wired to conform, as these lemmings are, to think the way everyone else does. But what about that little guy with the red ring up there? You see him? He is not conforming. He went ahead and did something that is different from everyone else. Now, it's funny. He's standing out from the rest. All the rest of them might think he's a little weird for having that thing there. But you know what? He's thinking differently. He thinks that maybe this isn't the way we should all be behaving. Maybe there's another way around this problem rather than just dying and killing ourselves. But why aren't most of us like that lemming with the life preserver? Why don't we do it? What prevents us from having this, just thinking all, whatever we want and not worrying about anything? Well, you know what? I had mentioned in the text, of week 1 of this website, of this class, that we are all the amalgamation of everyone else's expectations. society, our God, our parents, our teachers, all of we're all wired, we're all told basically how to behave every day. And we're as I said, we're rewarded for that. And we don't want to rock the boat. And there are a lot of very personal reasons for that. And we all have our different reasons, but here are some of them, and see if this might apply to any of you. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot about this. I wanted to ask the question, how come when we're faced with the need to think differently, we usually fall back on conventional thinking? And that's the point here. So why do we, here's a challenge, here's an opportunity for us to do something unique, maybe save the day at work, with a new, fresh idea, but we'll fall back on traditional thinking rather than looking for new and unique creative ways to solving that problem. And one of the reasons is fear of judgment. We're afraid of failing and having people judge us. And, imagine sitting in that boardroom where, it's, 10 people around a boardroom, and the boss walks in and says, what do you all think? And everyone says they all agree with him. And maybe you don't, but you're going to conform because you don't want to stand out because the others may judge you, and, that sort of thing. Fear of disapproval. We're all afraid of disapproval. We like to be approved. We like to have people think we're great. Fear of what others think. Fear of being laughed at. It happens to all of us. We all suffer from these sorts of things, these doubts, these fears that are just inherent to us. We're, again, wired that way. But, it's not a good thing. Because even if we have a unique idea, we're going to censor ourselves. We're just not going to say it because, and it's really unfortunate because it's that very idea that could just save the day, and you're not saying it, And this is a mental death sentence, and it's a career death sentence. It can be a career death sentence if you're involved in a career that requires kind of new ways of thinking, new ways of beating the competition, new ways of a new way to make profits because profits have stalled. And so it's a mental death sentence in the sense that it further just trains your brain to just think the way everyone else does. And what's the fun in that anyway? So conventional, predictable thinking, we all look alike, no one's special, and it makes you feel safe and unthreatened. Now, who doesn't want to? We like to feel the way this dog looks. We all want to feel great. Life is great. We're comfortable. I have my dog bowl. I get taken on walks. I'm rewarded. Society rewards me. This is all great. I love it. But, really, if you want to have an amazing career, if you want to be great, you have to choose, really, between being safe with those straight and narrow tracks, being very safe but unamazing, rusty, just, for your whole life, just be that way, or putting yourself out there and accomplishing some amazing things. Being a bit braver than you are. Throwing yourself on the tracks of conventional thinking can be scary. It really can be. I've done it. I have been out there. I've lived my career. I survived New York for 28 years. And I did well out there because I tended to throw myself on the tracks of conventional thinking. Not all the time. I censored myself a lot. But when it felt like it mattered, when I knew that I had a really good idea, I really did. Like that, I had a really good idea. I found myself often saying it. But, more often than not, you're thinking like this. Oh, we've never done it this way. Oh, everyone's agreeing with the boss. My idea might be no good. You have a million reasons not to say it. You talk yourself out of it. You do it a lot. We all do it a lot. And it's something that you have to choose not to do. When you're at that board reading, when you're in that board meeting or in that group, whatever the situation is, speak up, Be afraid, but do it anyway. Just do it anyway and see what happens. It's not going to kill you, really. I promise you. You're not going to die from speaking up when other people aren't. And your idea may fall flat on its face. Your idea may not be the right solution. But you know what? You're going to start getting a reputation as a thinking person, as a thinker, not a yes person and not a predictable patterned thinker. People value this stuff. They really do. You might throw out 10 ideas and in the end only 3 of them were cool, but you had 3 really cool ideas and they'll recognize that. And let me tell you something else. Creativity and self-esteem go hand in hand. When I have had a creative idea that I put out there, get implemented or, whatever it was, believe me, it is like nothing else. If you're, if you're just like everyone else, you don't very often find yourself in a situation that's in a self-esteem building situation. Self-esteem is built by you tackling your fears, confronting your fears, and then succeeding, And if you fall forward, if you fall, go in the direction you want to be going and then fall forward. Get back up and keep moving forward. It will really